So like I said, my name is Rehana, and I look forward to chairing this panel discussion. What we have here is a topic that is really, really simple, yet very complex. It's marketing that crosses borders, cultures, and cultural nuances. Now, I work in marketing, and most people think that when you have a campaign, it's about copying and pasting, but it actually does not work like that. What happens, it's about relevance at scale, and also being, having authenticity and maintaining authenticity. And I can't really see all of my panelists, which means I've got to move. Can I ask you to, let's create like an oval thing so we're more inclusive and I know who I'm talking to. You see, I did tell you I speak a lot, so I was going to make this quite engaging. Yeah, so I'm going to ask all of the panelists to now introduce themselves. And each one of these individuals that's here on stage, every one of them is doing something in different industries. Cherrylee, let's kick off with you. So what I want you to do is tell us where you're from, your role, and what is one of the challenges that you're actually finding in marketing at the moment?
Hi, my name is... Go. Okay. Hi, my name is Cherrylee Samson. Currently, I am the CMO and co-founder of Hibarri, which is a commodity tech platform, as well as I am one of the founding members of the International Commodity Summit. And to answer your last question, you asked what is one of the challenges, correct, that we find in marketing. I would say that depending on your audience, if you're catering to many different audiences, there can be a challenge of maybe, getting to them, especially because I'm not in like the retail space. So my audience is not just going to be satisfied with, let's just say, a billboard on the side of a highway, because I work in the commodity space and, it's B2B. I think you have to get very creative when it comes to that. Not all of the commodity spaces are very familiar with, large marketing that maybe like airlines do or that retail, shops do. So it's interesting in that space.
Hi everyone, I'm Jolene van Rensburg. I'm from Mineral Technologies, an Australian company based in Australia that traditionally mined the beach sand in the Gold Coast, for those of you who don't know who Mineral Technologies is. We're a multinational company. We've got presence in Africa, America, and Europe and Asia. So I hold a metallurgical engineering degree. Just some full disclosure, I've got absolutely no degree in marketing. So everything I say is based on my 15 years experience working in a multinational company. And the reason I am in marketing is because I found myself to have a passion for people, growth, and strategy. One of my biggest challenges I currently face is getting my team, who's traditionally the mining, with the hard hats and the shorts, the engineers. I'm also an engineer on paper. But getting my team to be more human and engage with people in order for us, to get our brand out there. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Zane Dippenaar, so I'm the head of marketing and growth projects at IBC Solar. So for us, I think and we just had a conversation about it outside, there's so much noise in the solar industry and a lot of products that are a bit more affordable, but not necessarily as reliable. So it's to really convey that message on which products you should buy. And I'll maybe touch on it a bit later as well. But I think that's the biggest challenge from a marketing perspective that we face at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Yudhvir Ranchod. I'm the marketing director at Peach Payments. We're a Pan-African payments company in Mauritius, Kenya, South Africa, and 6 other West African countries. Yeah, I guess the biggest challenge I think many of us face as marketers is just there's so much noise, right? I think everyone here in this room is inundated with messaging, banners and notifications. And I think what the challenge is cutting through that, right? So really smart, clever, creative, and messaging that gets through all that is, where good brands do well.
Thank you, everyone. So as you can see, we have a diverse panel, different challenges, different structures, different energies. But what we're working through is that tension between consistency, relevance, and personalization. I think that is the key, trying to identify what is the right message for the right audience at the right time and meeting them exactly where they are. So let's dive in. Cherrylee, let's start with you. So Hibarri is a marketplace, an international marketplace that services buyers, suppliers, and logistic partners in commodity trading. So it's purely a relationship-driven industry, okay? And it's been sort of focusing and doing business and operating for the last decades in the same way. So you actually want to introduce a digital platform in a traditional sense. How are you taking the marketing, or how are you communicating to the various audiences? And could you let me know, like when you're talking to buyers versus suppliers, what are you actually doing?
Okay, sure. So firstly, I would just like to say that I have a commodity trading background. So the platform itself was really born out of frustration in terms of, commodity trading and the lack of transparency in terms of price and in terms of speed as well. So as we started to grow one of our other companies, not Hibarri, a previous company, Kruger Commodities, as we started to grow that team and grow that company, what we found is that, let's say, for example, with our business development side or our sales side, a lot of people would just phone in and request, because obviously it's a commodity, right? It's not a brand. So it's not you're not choosing between Apple or Samsung. You're choosing a commodity. So fuel is fuel. A specific spec of coal it's coal. It's the same thing. So then what it comes down to is price. So most people would just be phoning in asking, what is the price of diesel? What is the price of this, commodity? And this ranges throughout the commodity spectrum, whether you're in agri, whether you're doing, hard commodities, metals. So people want to know, what is the price and what are the payment terms? So it became, I think, quite frustrating for our team because so many people are phoning in, they want a quote. Those quotes also take long and they don't necessarily translate into business. Right? So your team will be spending a lot of their time sending out quotes, but maybe those customers, they find a better price or whatever the case may be somewhere else. So I know the same problem is found in logistics as well. So, and also like another thing on that is that some companies, when you want a price to buy a commodity, depending on the company, but some companies have such a long KYC procedure that you have to go through before you even get a price. So if you really think about the compound effect of that on a company, especially a company that's growing, not like a Anglo, for example, that might have a whole department that's doing that. A company that's growing, it's overwhelming. It's unnecessary. So I remember one day, sitting with our other co-founder, Anya, and I was saying, if there could just be like, an Uber, like an Uber for commodities, why can't it just be that simple that, you can see the commodity there, you can see it there, you can see the price, and then you kind of just push, okay, I want this, I accept this price. Because remember, Uber, as well as like, let's say, Booking.com or any other platforms that like have an AI algorithm, they all kind of pull prices from different places, right? They pull prices from different places and they put all the options in front of you, and you as the consumer, you either accept it or you don't. So I was like, if only there could be something, that makes trade, this simple. Obviously, for anybody that has, any type of logistics or commodities background, they would understand it's really not that simple. Like, there's so many other factors that go into it. But, from that, we really built onto, that vision. And then I think now how I'd rather make it easy to compare to would be like Amazon, like that kind of user interface, but for commodities specifically. So we don't allow just any and everybody on there. It's really for like the producers of commodities. So we're quite stringent, let's say, with our KYC, just making sure from a quality and a risk perspective that we're protected there, and so are our buyers. And then, that's on the supplier side. So that was the frustration and the problem that we solved, because I know other companies face that as well. I know other smaller to medium-sized producers of commodities face the same issue. And then from a buyer side, the issue that we solve by doing this, it's purely a procurement play. So of course, if you're procuring, you're purchasing something, you want to see all the options in front of you. You once again don't want to go around hunting for quotes. That compound effect, it just takes so long. And the same on the logistics side. So it's really, we built our platform on, speed and transparency, because the quicker you can speed up trade, eventually, if you have large numbers of people using the platform, you're affecting, like GDPs at a larger level, at a scaled level.
So if I was an investor watching this and you had a chance to meet me in a lift, your 30-second elevator pitch, what's the story that you're telling me why this ecosystem approach is compelling?
Sure, so the ecosystem approach is compelling because, like I said, we are speeding up one of the most needed industries in the world. Everything is made from commodities. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you eat, it comes from a commodity. We are speeding up that process on a huge scale. And there's transparency in pricing, which makes it better for the supplier. It makes it better for the buyer. You just want to sell the commodity at the end of the day. So we speed up that process for you.
I think the ecosystem approach is fascinating because you're reaching multiple audiences simultaneously. Yudhvir, you're doing something similar with Peach Payments, but discovered that what works in one market doesn't work in the next. So I want to hear, and I know that questions were left towards the end, but if the audience members have any questions, please feel free to ask us, because it is interactive. It's not only about us having having this discussion. So if you have a question, please put up your hand. Somebody will bring a mic to you, and whoever the question is will answer it then as well. So coming back to you, Yudhvir, you went into Mauritius, and you thought it would be similar to South Africa, similar economies, similar backgrounds, but that's not actually what happened. When did you discover that what you did had completely changed?
Yeah, I think Mauritius is a really fascinating example. We entered Mauritius in 2021. Peach has been around since, 2012. So, really set our roots in South Africa, grew the business really well, and decided that we needed to expand. And Mauritius was interesting on two ends of the spectrum. So there were a lot of smaller businesses who, to Cherrylee's point earlier, essentially what we were trying to do is take an old process and modernize it, right? The similar way that they've been trying to do. And the old process is what we're familiar with, cash in the system, more efficient ways of doing payments and businesses selling online. And so there's a lot of education, right? Really getting people up to speed with it. On the other end of the spectrum were bigger businesses who were more advanced, but still had not adopted digital payments as much as other markets. And in the last 4 years, it's transformed incredibly, right? I mean, we've seen big banks come on board, multiple payment methods take off in Mauritius. The smaller guys have started moving into the market. So Mauritius is this fascinating case of, seeing in real time almost digital payments boosting business. To your question about what we learned, yeah, it was that. It was, we went in there seeing Mauritius as what it's pitched as, is this a credible haven for businesses, right, who want to trade internationally but have a base with relatively flexible tax laws and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, we had assumed with, and I'll use an example because I know we're all in the midst of this now, right? So I promise everyone here probably has had a Black Friday ad or has things in their cart that they're waiting to check out on. And so that's been in South Africa for quite a few years, and we suspected that Mauritius was in a similar place where it wasn't. It hadn't taken off, and it wasn't as big as it was here, although a much smaller economy. And so really to go back to basics with that kind of marketing in this biggest period of the year for any online business, and really educate again about the benefits of online payments and what it can do to accelerate growth for businesses. So that was interesting. We're learning constantly on the ground. We're an enterprise business now, and so we deal with a lot of banks, a lot of big clients, and that sales process is really long. And yeah, the similarities now are evening out because we're seeing traction in Mauritius that we've seen in South Africa. So we're able to apply those learnings from South Africa to Mauritius.
I guess with any new business comes a lot of planning, right? When you discovered that it wasn't working, you had a whole team behind you. So you had to go through to them and tell them, this isn't working. How did that conversation go?
Yeah, luckily the team relies on us a lot. We sit in South Africa and we've had the learnings for a good few years on making payments work and educating businesses. And so I think it's the people you have in those regions also, right? They were receptive to change and advice and looking to grow Mauritius. They were small, they're now up to about 20 people there. So, it's grown quite significantly in the last few years. And yeah, it was just that. It was our CEO, Chief Operating Officer, sits in Mauritius. And so because he's very close to the brand and to the South African market and the way we did things here, he was receptive. He was like, cool, you guys are the expert in this, and we trust you. And so we found, one of the measures we found is we found a local PR agency, which made the world of difference, right? Local context, local news publications, local relationships made all the difference. And so now, because we were able to elevate the brand through being featured in magazines and newspapers and trade publications, that really helped. It was finding the right people on the ground to accelerate your presence.
Okay, so we see that Yudhvir had to learn through experience. Dr. Zane, you're working across 15 different African countries simultaneously. How do you avoid making these assumptions about these markets? And what I want to say is that every region has different infrastructure and different needs. So are there essentially 15 different strategies that you're using? Because we're talking about personalization, or is it one core story that you develop and evolve as you go around?
So with us, it's we have, like you said, we are over a couple of countries. So basically, we have our international, HQ in Germany. We are a German brand. So Germany kind of create the assets and create the branding and provide that. And then for a lot of the countries, they don't necessarily have a designated marketing person on ground. So they just sort of use what HQ is providing. With South Africa, we do not do that. So I'm only responsible for South Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and then I share with them what we do, and it's more like they try then to adapt at HQ as well what we do. So for instance, HQ is quite corporate. It's very formal. It's conferences like this. There's no problem with that. But in South Africa, we tend to have a little bit more fun. In HQ, they have their own training center, so they in-house training. They have their own distribution, warehousing. So we don't have that here. We need to rely on our suppliers. So instead of very structured training events, we go to our suppliers. SolarMD actually is one of the sponsors. They're one of our storage solution suppliers, so they just build a paddle court in the factories, so we try and utilize that, of course. So we rely more on strategic events and really adapting ourselves to the market. It's not about adapting, actually. It's just about being more relatable to the South African market. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge because we create all of our content ourselves, but we really do rely, or not rely, but we try and stay consistent with HQ, for instance. Yeah.
Have you ever found that the message that you were trying to relay in the various regions gets lost in translation?
For sure. For instance, I can use about 5% of the content they generate in HQ. So we, IBC Solar, have our own panels as well as mounting structures. However, it's an amazing product. The mounting, everyone talks about the mounting, but it's not adaptable with other South African products. So we actually need to change the narrative now. We introduced a third-party mounting structure now in our company, selling their products now and sort of phasing out our own mounting to be more relevant here, because the product itself is not speaking to South Africa. So the message by default is not going to speak to South Africa. So we really do need to adapt, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that proximity matters, like Yudhvir talked about education or having the proper cultural nuances support locally and involving local personalization. That's quite interesting. Jolene, your world is completely different. Your sales cycles is not measured in weeks, but years. So walk us through what marketing means when you're selling mining equipment with an 18-month cycle. I mean, you're dealing with engineers, you're dealing with governments, you're dealing with C-suite executives. So take us through, if you had to engage with a client, what's your plan, who is the decision maker, and how it unfolds.
Okay, so firstly, 18 months seems relatively short. Yeah, I've had examples where the sales cycle is about 4 years. By the time you
Wow.
get the purchase order, you actually forgot what the quote said. But yeah, so as my role as a strategic partnerships and growth manager, in simple terms, business development, I have not been fortunate to just get a few accounts and manage the relationships. I'm what we call the hunters. So typically, my whole sales cycle will start typically on LinkedIn with a cold call, identifying the decision makers. The most important thing would be to really make a connection, a personal connection with the key stakeholders in a target company, in a customer. So, for an example, a recent project that I just concluded a sale on, which coincidentally took me 18 months, never happens, but there it's all about maintaining relationships with all the decision makers. In my industry, you know, having a friendly face often helps, but you have to back that up with the technical credibility, especially when dealing with European customers. I deal with engineers, engineering managers. They're all about the numbers, the proof. And luckily, the company I work for, and I'm not promoting them now, but the company I work for, I really believe in their technology, and it really works. So it's very easy for me. I don't like the word sell, but our products work, and so it's easy for me in the beginning to start with getting test work by the engineers. And once they see the results, then it's easy. But then once you go over to procurement, they're all about profit and margins. So then they're pushing you for price, and then it's T's and C's. So there you have to establish a whole different relationship. And then after that, you think, okay, I'm probably getting the order this afternoon. And then as we all know, things change a lot in this industry. Then you'll get the CEO or the owner of the company wanting a more detailed explanation in terms of ROI and risks involved. So it's different. It's a difficult question for me to answer because you have to change your approach the whole time. You have to initially, be the girl that brings the donuts and, be the typical salesperson or, take them for wine. And then it goes into, once you've built that trust, it's now to become credible. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. And what it's also saying is that at some stage or part of the process that you're just describing, stakeholder management is quite important because you're dealing with key strategic people at different times of the purchasing process. So I think what we're hearing is that there's no such thing as a perfect marketing campaign. It's about deeply understanding the consumer. So I said 18 months. Jolene corrected us and said sometimes a sale can actually go 4 years. So it just talks about how long that is. Dr. Zane mentioned and Yudhvir mentioned about adaptability, which brings me to the next part of the process and having those organizational structures in place. So, Jolene, you said you work for Mineral Technologies, which is an Australian-based company. When you're developing a deal in Zambia, or say you're doing something in Germany, how much autonomy or decision-making do you actually have on the ground, and how much feedback do you need from Australia?
Yeah, so I'm in a very fortunate position. We have a lot of autonomy, but it didn't come easy. We obviously had to prove ourselves to HQ in Australia, prove to them that our strategies do work. And since we are dealing in different continents, different time zones, if you're not going to have the autonomy in your region, you won't be able to move forward. We always have this thing of, just do it and apologize later. Because in the end of the day, you wouldn't be part of the company if you didn't share the values and the strategy. So you should have the autonomy. And I mean, a few years back, probably 10 years back, we strongly pushed to have fabrication in South Africa. Because as most of you know, the whole localization content is a requirement. So you can't compete as an equipment supplier in terms of lead time, cost, local legislation if you don't have and adapt and have the local fabrication. Obviously, it's according to our one universal quality standards and
Is there ever a time in your career that you had to advocate for the different approach?
Yeah, all the time, especially now with Europe. And that was also one example, the local fabrication. It took us very long to get that approved because, every country, I'm not going to name specific names. I've used to work for an American company, German company, but every country thinks, they do it better. So they don't want to give away that niche, that speciality. So there's a lot of convincing that you have to do. And I also faced that a lot with pricing strategies, especially across Europe. The earlier panel this morning, Tim and them mentioned Europeans, the whole committees. They have committees for committees. So there's a lot of challenges that you have to overcome. But the beauty of it all is once you've proven that you know what you're doing and you know your region, then you get the autonomy to just do what you need to do to get the things done.
Dr. Zane, IBC Solar is a company with very strict or very well-established brand guidelines. Where's the line between this is not negotiable in Germany and South Africa can adapt?
So as I mentioned earlier, South Africa kind of do our own thing. I can very much build on what you just said, the whole just ask forgiveness later type of thing. But I must say, and I think that's definitely, and again, what she said, you need to build that trust. In the beginning, I think it was about 3 months into working at IBC Solar, we rebranded. and how I had to build that brand in South Africa. And I think I did it in a manner where I built that trust with headquarters as well. So they really give me the freedom to do basically whatever I want. So they provide the social media guidelines, they do provide the logo, the primary colors, secondary colors, all of that. So that's basically the non-negotiables. But yeah, I don't stick with the templates. I really, really just do not. It's just not, it's too corporate for South Africa. So for instance, where they only post the trainings and the conference and so on, and you mentioned Black Friday earlier, what we do is something completely new in the company, is we're doing an auction for Black Friday, which I think HQ kind of rattled a bit about that one, like how are you going to do that?
So every person here gets a discount on solar panels.
Oh, well, you can join the auction. You just need to sign up with us first. And for Easter, I do an Easter egg hunt in the online shop where we literally hide little eggs everywhere, and the customers need to send us screenshots of it. So like I said, we have fun with it. For me, it's just if it impacts the brand integrity, I stick with HQ's guidelines. If it impacts the customer's opinion and comfort with us, we go with South Africa. Simple things like we just launched our new website yesterday, so it's a bit of a new, fresh look. But basically, they did the international website and duplicated it for us, and I had to kind of change almost every word on that website to make it, for them, they have sub-pages for sub-pages with information. I took everything off and dropped it into FAQs because nobody wants to read all of that information. Also the pictures, it's roofs with snow on it. It's not somewhere in South Africa now and then you get some snow, but it's not relevant to us. A funny thing, they thought it was very funny. They have this perfect photo of this German family on the lawn in front of a house with solar panels, and I pop it into ChatGPT and I say, make it more South African, and it just made the people very tanned, like super tan, and it was like, apparently you guys get no sun in Germany. So like really just diversifying what we do for South Africa. This is through language, it's through the people, through the infrastructure. I mean, the building is also completely different. So there's definitely those non-negotiables, but we kind of free reign over here.
I think that is great when I hear both you and Jolene saying that you do have the autonomy to actually make decisions, because that gives you, if something happens now, you can decide, great, this is what we would do, instead of waiting for approval. And we know what bureaucracy does when we wait for that. So, Cherrylee, you're hearing both from Jolene and Dr. Zane talk about navigating headquarters with autonomy. You're the co-founder, so you are the headquarters. Does this make marketing easier for you or just differently complex?
Okay, to answer that question, the first thing I would say is strategy. It really just depends upon my strategy. So whatever the company's strategy is set, and just executing on that. So if your strategy is tight, and this, in answer to your question, if my strategy is tight, so being very intentional, how we have been about, obviously we have operations here in South Africa, as well as we do have a US registered entity. We do have operations in the US. Being very intentional about where we place ourselves and where we want to, obviously we're an international marketplace, but there's certain markets that, we are prioritizing, perhaps, let's say. So it's just about strategy.
Okay, so here's what I'm curious about. In any global organization, some things stay consistent. You mentioned brand guidelines, key value propositions, certain things that you cannot change, quality standards, and some things can flex. Yudhvir, you said pricing, promotion, strategies, partnerships. How do you each decide what the lineup is and what's the framework? So Yudhvir, let's start off with you. You're in fintech, so you seem to have both. Your security, I was going to say, is rock solid, right? But the messaging can be adaptable to the various regions. How are you finding that?
Yeah, you're right. We're a business built on trust, right? You handle people's money, you handle businesses' money. Your number one priority is securing that for them and the customers that use them. So where you can't flex is that trust, right? You are constantly building trust across markets at every opportunity because businesses survive on it, right? Coupled with that, obviously, is having the relevant technology in place to do that, right? We service multiple industries, from retail to insurance to, betting, multiple industries across regions. And so, it's one message, thankfully, that we are PCI compliant. We've got the relevant security codes in place so that, when you use Peach, you know that your transactions are in good hands. I think it's interesting where the flex comes, because what we're seeing across markets is different types of payment methods. Fintech is flourishing globally, in Africa specifically, and payment methods are coming up, right? And so what you're seeing is that they want to build them, or they want to incorporate them, business want to incorporate them in the payment gateway on their store. So think Payflex and Float and all these guys that you guys now see, QR codes at checkout. And that's where I guess is the flexibility, right? Businesses want to understand what works for them. Some customers who have big basket sizes want something where customers can shop over time in a payment method that suits them. Others just don't care, right? It's just card and that's it. And so I think it's that. It's offering the flexibility to customers to pick and choose what they want, making that really easy. So in our dashboard, you can go in and toggle Apple Pay on, Samsung Pay on, Payflex on, off, all these types of things. And so it's giving them the autonomy to do that themselves, right? But in the structures and the confines of a secure environment, which they love, right? It's constant feedback we're getting about, oh man, this is so easy. People ideally want to figure out things themselves sometimes, and you give them the leeway to do that, and it works remarkably well. But again, it's all built on trust, right? In peak times, and I mentioned this again, this month is crazy. This is where it all happens for us. Staying reliable, staying online is paramount. And so, yeah, we're really proud. We've never gone down over Black Friday. So,
I think if you lose your credibility, you lose your trust. And
absolutely.
Especially around this time, because relationships, marketing is about value perception. And it is so easily when the message is misunderstood, and trust is one of the pivotal points where people decide if they actually want to engage with you or not.
Yeah. I want to add one more thing onto that, because you spoke about Mauritius earlier on. And what's interesting with Mauritius is it's positioning itself also to be the springboard into Africa for many businesses. And so doubling down on that trust not in Mauritius, but that business is looking to move into Africa, can see that it's a viable way to enter other markets. And so, having the foundation set is really important there too.
Either to Dr. Zane or Jolene, is your framework similar, considering that you're in different industries?
So very much also built on trust. I think with us, we ask ourselves 3 questions, or I would ask myself 3 questions. First, does it impact the brand identity? Then you would rather stay consistent if it's going to have a big impact. Secondly, does it impact the way the customer is going to buy or make a decision to buy? Then you're going to flex. You're going to South Africanize it, you know what I mean? So then you're definitely going to put some flexibility there and adapt. And then the third question is basically, what's the risk? Is it worth the risk? And then also, if it's worth the risk, then consult HQ and see how we can keep it consistent, but also implement the flex. So I think that's the three questions that would determine which road you go. But definitely through that 3 decisions, you always need to keep the trust and the reliability 100%, especially with a premium product.
Jolene, would you like to add on?
Maybe just a summary, which echoes pretty much what everyone said. Basically, the framework I use is what defines who we are must stay global. What defines how we must adapt must be local. How we must work. So basically echoing exactly what everyone else said on the panel.
Okay. So, Yudhvir, you have real-time data. There's transactions, conversions, and platform metrics. When you look at South Africa versus Kenya versus Mauritius, what's actually different in the data? What are you noticing? Are people different? Are the local drivers the same?
Yeah, and so we are obsessed about data. We look at it constantly. Yeah, I think, listen, South Africa is by far our biggest market, right? And so comparatively, Mauritius and Kenya are small, but experiencing rapid growth. And so I think what we try to do is see the trends that we see in the data in South Africa and try to predict, is that applicable for Mauritius and Kenya and other markets and future markets we will go into very soon. Yeah, and again, I mean, what we're seeing is this adoption of digital payments across Africa, right? It feels like South Africa's a little bit further into that journey, but it's astounding to see the growth in those figures. You know, we look obviously month on month, week on week, day by day usually, and you can see that uptick in growth happening in real time, and that's fascinating. And then it's delving back and seeing, like, where are those drivers, who's pulling those levers, and what relationships are pulling those levers in those markets for you, and then doubling down on those and saying, all right, cool, that's working. Let's focus on that.
Jolene, Yudhvir is looking at data. I wonder who's Dela. Yudhvir is looking at data daily. You won't know if your marketing worked for, what is the duration? Because you mentioned 18 months being the shortest, with 4 years being the longest. So how do you measure or define success in the short term? And what would you look at and say that actually worked?
Great question. Any advice and suggestions would be welcome. No, so, I mean, for instance, who here can honestly say that when they walked into the doors yesterday knew exactly who Mineral Technologies were or is? I hear that all the time, that no one really knows what we do, because to be quite honest, we have a very common name. There's a Minerals Technologies as well. So, so for me, that's a measurement of marketing works, because hopefully now at least you have an idea of who Mineral Technologies is and what we do. And the fact that I got invited to be on this panel means that I did something right on LinkedIn for Anya to notice me and invite me, so that also. But on a more serious note, in the environment with the long sales cycles, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the CRM tools. There's a few of them, Salesforce, one just called CRM Airtable. So we actually use that to measure the effectiveness of marketing. For us, measuring marketing effectiveness, we can see that in terms of whether we get earlier engagement from your EPCMs earlier in the mining process, and that's actually where we want to get involved with the test work, as well as pipeline growth, competitor conversions. So, you know, if you know of someone that was previously using your competitor product and now they're using our product, well, my marketing worked. So, and yeah, the last one would be, I think I mentioned pipeline growth and diversification. We are in a fortunate position, which took a lot of marketing from our side and a lot of cold calls and a lot of wrong pronunciations of European names to be entering a market of recycling. So we're getting sent a lot of samples. So that also shows that marketing works.
Okay, so I think what you're speaking about highlights something very significant, because there's no definable term to say my marketing strategy is a success. It depends on the industry that you're in, the stakeholder relationships that you have, and also your sales cycle. So let's move on to something that is shifting the marketing strategies, and that's AI. And we know that AI plays a very, very pivotal point or tool or resource or ally, as I like to call them, in our marketing journey. So tell me one thing that AI is doing absolutely brilliantly, whether it's streamlining your work process, coming up with creative campaigns, and then tell me one thing where you say, nope, this isn't working, human intervention is definitely needed here. And Yudhvir, let's kick off with you. You've built an AI avatar for research. What's working and what's not?
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So I'll
What's
backtrack the
the
story
avatar called?
slightly. I'll get to that now. So the massive benefit, cost reduction for us, right? And in creative execution. And that's a great example of us looking at a problem. Well, a situation where we would often, many of our customers need demo videos about how certain features work on the platform. And ordinarily, as many of you would have used, is gone to YouTube, find the video, have someone, watch a relatively boring video. And we thought, how can we change this and what tools are at our disposal? And we found an AI avatar one that had a real person and you could text to video. And it creates the avatar, it spoke to you like a real person, side by side with the screen and showed you what to do. But that kind of got a little bit stale, right? It was the same avatar and we got a bit bored. And so we thought, hey, let's shoot ourselves. If we believe in our brand this much and we believe in this company, let's turn ourselves into AI avatars. So 5 of us in the business spent half a day shooting ourselves in high definition, reading dummy scripts, and now exist as avatars. And so these demo videos that I talk about, if you needed an act, had you done this 5 years ago where you needed an actor and a set and an editor and lighting, I mean, those are 50 to 80,000 Rand a video, right? Quite easily. These for, I think we spend 1,000 Rand subscription a month, we can do 10 a day if we want to, right? And it's of high quality and it's me. It's me speaking, it looks like me, it's my mannerisms, it's everything. And then the avatar that you're speaking about is we publish a report, we sponsor a report published by Arthur Goldstock, who's a tech journalist, about online retail in South Africa. And again, we looked at this challenge and how do we communicate the findings in this report that feels different and that is, a bit more exciting. And so what we did is we uploaded the last 3 years of reports and a little bit of other surrounding fintech payments information into this avatar knowledge base and had the avatar appear on a landing page that you could interact with. So you could just ask it questions about online retail and she, who's a colleague in my team, would speak to you. And you could interrupt her, and so we're at the beginning of this crazy journey, and so we're diving in head first and seeing what it can do. I think the flip side of what is bad is already what's creeping into a lot of like corporate structures is people, I don't know if you guys know what AI slop is, where it's just bland, generic use of AI. And I think that's the thing, right? Like there's opportunities to use it in such a really great way that is unique to your brand and unique to your voice, but as a force multiplier to do that on scale. But there's also the other side where just everything looks the same and feels the same. And I think it's that line that you have to be tread carefully as marketers. And our role is to distinguish between what feels real and relevant versus, and that's just what everyone else is doing.
Thank you. Cherrylee, where's AI helping Hibarri's marketing? Where are you cautious? What are the guardrails you have in place?
Sure. So I think with AI, and also, to your point, I think AI is only as good as the person who is programming it. So, your input is going to definitely determine your output, very simply put. I think that AI does pose a lot of opportunities. I know that with Hibarri as a platform, we also do have some AI elements, especially with, as I was explaining earlier, with the price determinations on the logistics side. So yes, we do use AI AI algorithms in that way. I think it's great for automation, but once again, it's only as good as the person who is programming it and what you are saying to it. Yeah.
Dr. Zane and Jolene, you're both in highly technical fields. Is AI helping you explain complex things? Or what is it doing for you in the various industries?
So ironically, well, we are a German company, so everything is approached very carefully and with security in mind. So I think the topic of AI only came up in the past 3 months in our company. So I think our biggest fail is that we're way behind on AI. In South Africa, I'm listing my AI budget under tools. So I've been using it for a little while. So we were at a marketing conference recently, and my favorite quote from the whole conference is me, myself, and AI. I don't know if you remember that one. So AI has helped me personally to work overtime less. So definitely speeding up really with the more admin and helping me as a marketer be more strategic because I have more time to really think things through and put more thought and effort into campaigns, for instance. So it helps me get the creative and the copy. Again, it's human driven, so I will say exactly what I want for that campaign, but formulating a proposal that needs to be sent to a sponsorship and already thinking for me of everything that sponsor is going to ask me for, and I don't have to sit with all those details. That really, really helps. So it's just that for me, it's a time-saving element. Regarding the technical aspect of it, it's a bit, sometimes, like I would ask them to generate a photo of a guy with safety gear on a roof. Cannot do the safety gear. So, and I can't post a photo of a guy installing a panel without safety gear on. I mean, no ways. Like, I'll get crucified on social media. So stuff like that, technical aspect from a creative perspective, it's not there yet. Also, it tends to make up information now and then. I think, especially with me, with my research, it really does not always, I would say, where did you get this? And I say, I'm sorry, I don't know where I got that. And I'm like, don't give it to me. So from a technical aspect, not completely reliant on it. I don't know if you, Jolene, has something to add to that.
Yeah, well, I really love AI. You mentioned saving time, working less overtime. All of us obviously balances personal life, work life, So for me, AI, my philosophy is use it. You have to use it, otherwise you'll get left behind. It's really like having, for me, a cheap intern, like a young grad student that just got out of varsity, and I don't have to pay him a lot, him or her, or it. But the problem with AI in my specific field, with all the different mineralogical names like hematite and magnetite, it can easily confuse the two. And that can obviously be a very, very big problem. You can lose a lot of credibility in a feasibility report, so do not use it for a feasibility report. But it can certainly help, as you mentioned, accelerate the speed of processing an 80-page metallurgical report. It can summarize it. But it does need human interaction to deal with the nuance type of stuff.
Yeah, I think Jolene touching it, you said something really interesting there at how it's assisting businesses look at processes internally and not cutting down the workforce, but also really looking at what people are needed. I mean, there's tools like sales prospecting, and so there's the creative element, and then there's the sales prospecting side of stuff, which is fascinating too. So tools like Apollo and Clay, where you can go in and look for a business, find their C-suite level, get the email addresses. This is now obviously cold outreach. Get their email addresses, create an email sequence campaign in Apollo, have it send it, and feed that back into HubSpot or your CRM. Like that process is 3 sales development reps in most businesses, or 4. Now there's these tools that do this. So I just think like I said earlier, right? Like these things going so fast, but I think the use cases have spun out of copy into now real important business processes.
I think if you listen to the panel discussions earlier, and last week I was at Africa Tech Week, and they were talking about bridging the sales gap, and the gentleman earlier on said that you've got to learn, you have no excuse, because the internet is there and everything is there, and WhatsApp has Meta and Copilot, and Moonsake now has Kimi and DeepSeek and a whole lot of them. And I use pronouns, Jolene. I say she, he, it, them, and when ChatGPT hallucinates, I go, what's wrong with you? Where did you get that from? And you're frustrating me, and it says, I'm really sorry, Rehana, I didn't mean that, but let's dial down and let's dive back in. You mentioned something very interesting, Jolene, which brings us to the next segment, work-life balance. And AI definitely helps in terms of streamlining work and output and input. We know in marketing, and especially in multinationals, burnout in any industry is a very real thing. And 70% of marketing professionals experienced burnout last year. And multinational marketing adds layers. So there's time zones, there's traveling, there's being consistent. You have to be available all the time. Dr. Zane, let's start this with you. You're traveling, or if you're traveling across the different countries, when you do, what's one thing that you're doing for your wellness, for yourself or for your teams? Like, how do you balance that? Because you've got a new project. You've got to be available. So you said you do lots of events and things like that. People have to work after hours if they do or they don't. What do you do?
So yeah, I'm not traveling that much though, but it's also a problem because it would be great to be present in more, because we don't have the capacity to travel as much, our presence in the more African countries, our neighboring countries, isn't that big. So we have our good customers in all the sub-Saharan countries, but our biggest presence is in South Africa. And I think that's definitely something we want to focus a bit more on next year, because we don't have the capacity. To answer your question, there's basically three things. Delegating isn't optional, and I had to learn that the hard way last year, because I think this year, I wouldn't have sat here with a big smile on my face. I'm very close to burnout. So, and I was very much told to start delegating. Then also prioritizing deep work time. So blocking out my calendar, closing my door, saying, okay, I need to get this done today. I'm now off limits. And then the other one is setting clear boundaries. So I think that's the best way you can really protect your sanity, especially with me where I am the marketing person. I need to rely on the sales team and technical team. One of my technical colleagues is here in the audience. I think he just heard Avatar now, and he's going to ask me for Avatar. But so yeah, you need to rely on your team, definitely.
Jolie, in terms of wellness or well-being, what do you do?
So I think it's very similar than what Dr. Zane mentioned. I'm fortunate that I'm in a company that values family time and values health and wealth. So, yeah, it's all about setting boundaries. It's about learning to say no. And it's about proper time management, planning your trips. Yes, you have to be flexible in this industry. There's different time zones. But you just have to make it work. And like I said, you just have to be able to say no. Make some time for your family. Prioritize your family, friends, your own well-being, and just get creative. I like the fact that you said you had a paddle court in your factory. I really love paddling, so I've even started doing that, over customer meetings. And earlier this week, someone mentioned something about she never heard about women in mining before. So I love women in mining. I always attend all their great events with the mining indaba. But the one thing I've also noticed is in our industry, it changed a lot over the years. There's a lot more females in the engineering industry, in the technical mining industry. So what's the difference if you go golfing for a day, with your work colleagues for a networking event versus if you're taking 10 procurement ladies for their nails and a massage, what's the difference? First, it's cheaper, it's shorter, and it's very much needed. So that's what I've been doing. And then I also get to do my nails.
I think women, we tend to do that. Cherrylee and Yudhvir, high growth companies, pressure to scale. How are you thinking about wellness for your teams, yourselves?
Okay, so I would say that, sure, because I'm a founder, I don't have any downtime. I have goals. No, I mean, if you know me, you would get it, but really, that is just how I am. I think it depends. Each person is different. We all value different things. I don't think there's a right answer, there's no wrong answer. It just really depends on what you value, and depending on what you value, what you prioritize, right? So for me, like I said, I have a very clear vision of where I'm going and where we're going as a company. And obviously, strategically, you do need to take some time out to do other activities. Like I really like to do paddle's cool as well. Anything really like active, I enjoy. But yeah, I'm pretty focused in what I'm doing.
As the only gentleman on the panel, you have to tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I think it's marketers are at an interesting place in a company, right? You really need to, I found in my experience, believe in your company, right? Part of your job is convincing other people that they need to believe in your company, so you need to believe in it. So I think for me, it's keeping that level of excitement in a business, right? It's what you do, be highly creative, be in a really strong team. Open levels of communication and trust are critical, and I found that helps incredibly, just for self-motivation and wanting to do more and better. And then, yeah, I mean, to everyone's opinion, what you enjoy is balancing the work side of things with what you enjoy, really in life, family, friends, exercise, and finding the time to do that. I mean, it's not rocket science. We all know these things, which is interesting. It's just finding the time, the discipline to do it.
I think for me, what I've done is I've turned off all notifications. And so if somebody sends me a message on WhatsApp, I'm not going to get it and I'll ring you. I know we're running out of time. I just want to close up quickly. Sustainability is very, very important. So
I'm giving 10 minutes. I think the audience will agree with me, right? I know we'll be taking this from
your networking
our
session,
break time,
but I promise we're going to make it up.
Let's allow them 10 minutes to round up. Yes.
And it's going to be very quick. So sustainability is important. Marketing is actually how people perceive your brands. They want to engage with you. They want to trust you. It builds credibility. So, Dr. Zane, you're selling solar panels. You're in sustainability, right? Walk us through that.
So just as a bit of a background, so we
have 10 minutes.
Yes, we have a big, short background. So we have had a big shift from residential to commercial. So this makes to answer this question a bit easier. So there's now ESG reports and sustainability reporting. So that makes it quite easy to market to the commercial sector, because they actually, to export and to also import, that's something they really need. And adding solar to your company just automatically write that report for you. What makes it a bit more difficult is the greenwashing and the noise in the industry and the more affordable products popping up everywhere, and really advocating for the brands that we are selling. So I think that's the more of a challenge when it comes to sustainability, because when is it sustainability versus just affordability? So I think it's easier in that sense, but also difficult in the other sense, yeah.
Jolene, you're in mining, historically seen as harmful to the environment. It's complex. How are you communicating this message?
So again, I'm in mining, but I'm in a company that gets it. So our storyline is your minerals matter. And I mean, we all can agree that's why we're here. We need minerals for the green energy transition that we are all obsessed with and that we need. And then the second part of our slogan is, and how we get them or how we recover them matters most. So that goes to the environmental impact. And coincidentally, or by design, our technology can actually help do exactly that. We can reduce the mining footprint. With our technology, we tend to be able to recover previous valuable minerals from tailings that was previously just dumped and was a liability for your company. Now we go and recover it into a sellable product. Our technology uses less water, less energy per ton recovered. So it's quite an easy sell once you explain the value to the customer. And to echo what you've said as well, believe in your products, then it's easy to convince your customers. I believe in our products, our technology, and I strongly believe we are helping with the energy transition by recovering the minerals we require, but doing it in a more efficient and sustainable way so that we also leave some mining left for our little ones one day. So, yeah.
Cherrylee and Yudhvir, 30 seconds each on how responsibility and sustainability shows up in your industries.
Sure. Okay, let's take Hibarri. Responsibility and sustainability, I would say that would be part of our, let's talk about on our supplier side, so the producers of the commodities that list. Us as a platform have a responsibility to do our due diligence and to do our KYC properly, so to know that whoever lists on the platform, they really are who they say that they are a producer of that commodity, whatever it may be. And then on the other side, to do that with our logistics partners as well, to make sure that we have the best logistics partners that can and do deliver the product always on time. So that is definitely part of our, responsibility in terms of sustainability and, to answer your question, I think that is that.
Thank you.
Yeah, in our world, it's, obviously slightly different, but I guess it's the famous three-sided, the triangle, and each side of the triangle. The one is your team, right? We've built a strong team across multiple regions. It's creating the working environment for them to thrive, right? So having the tools and the openness to try and fail. The other side is obviously your customers, right? We spoke about it earlier, the security measures in place, the payment methods, the innovation that really drives them to grow their business, no matter which industry or location they are in. And then the third side are investors, right? In a fintech startup, those are key people who are part, and I know some of them are here a bit later, generating growth for them, obviously, too. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So from the 10 minutes, we have 3 minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience?
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa. I'm from Margin Energy. I don't really have a question. I have a statement to make, and I'm sure that the people on the panel would agree with me. I get suppliers knocking on my door every other day. And I can tell you now that I will support the ABC brand, I will support the other brand, but the one that is closest in my memory, that is the one that I will support. Because right now, there is so much noise. I'm sure all of you can sit here and say, I have in my inbox 3,000 plus emails. I have people phoning me every other day, but how do I, as the marketing person, stand out? It's about relationship building, and it's about making that impression. I love your idea of the avatar. I think that is, I need to capture my audience. So it doesn't matter which industry you are, it's about capturing and getting that attention and retaining that attention. Thank you.
I think you made a very valid point there. Marketing is about relationships. It is about stakeholder engagements. Because if people do business with people they like, and it's about having differentiation, it's about understanding and meeting your customers exactly where they are. We had an exceptional panel, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your, is there another question? Okay, sorry.
Thank you. I've got a question for Jolene, and actually a few of you mentioned that you strongly believe in a work-life balance. So I just really want to know, in an honest opinion, how much wine does it take to keep that balance?
You're asking how much wine does it take to keep work-life balance? In my case, half a glass goes straight to my head. I'm already balanced, and I'm at home. Does that answer your question?
It's the reason we're based in Cape Town, right? The winelands are up the road. That's
I think there's wine outside in the networking session. The guy's funny. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands. Is
Just
there
one more,
another
just
question?
one more. Just one more. Okay, so this question is mostly for Yudhvir and then also for Jolene. Okay, so the question is, it's a very clean-cut question. You might feel naked as a representative of your company in answering this, but how big is Peach Payments' funnel and the layers? Because I know obviously at the top, who doesn't know about us? We still have to reach them. That's like millions. And then who have we emailed or who have we reached? That's maybe like 1 million. And then who has actually responded is like 100,000. And how do you channel them? Because for us, we have SEO, we have a landing page, we have email, we have all these, like marketing tricks. But what is because obviously Peach Payments, I think, is one of the most evolved brands from a technological perspective. So what is that funnel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that comes with kind of the way we're a small marketing team and a dynamic business in who our customers are. So my early days at Peach, we were focused on SME businesses. And to your point, it's a very different sales funnel, right? Those guys or those businesses can sign up online, submit their documents, and be trading maybe in a day or two, right? Almost untouched from humans, right? And ideally, that's the process. They don't want to talk to people. Jolene made some good points earlier about sales, enterprise sales cycles. And that's how we've kind of shifted now, right? Much longer, 12 months. Totally agree with that. And very different, right? They're not going to respond to your drip campaign. They're not looking at emails. I mentioned Clay and Apollo earlier. I don't know if you've used them. It's cool, but everyone knows it's cool. So everyone's using it. And there are dozens of unread emails I just delete now because I know it's coming from that platform. I think we've said it a couple of times here, right? It's one-on-one engagement. That's what we're learning with enterprise sales. It's pitching up at events, it's sponsoring events, it's being in person. It's really warm, long-term relationship growing and nurturing. And then where possible, working very closely with sales, that your CRM is your source of truth. There will be multiple touch points. We sponsor a cricket team in the SA20 cricket tournament. We invite people to come to that in January. We have events where they'll come to, there's multiple touch points through the year we'll engage. Then maybe, fingers crossed, they cross the line in like November. But, measuring all of those is important. And so we continuously have discussions. It's a very simple question. What is a marketing lead, right? And I think that vigorous debate is happening constantly in our business too, between sales and marketing and how these people are coming in. I hope I answered your question, but it's who your customer is almost, and then having the funnel that suits that type of customer size.
Sorry, I know I'm getting the look, or we're all getting the look, but just 2 seconds. So for me, maybe, since Hibarri is the main sponsor of this event, I'd like to know, are we going to be able to trade with Peach Payments on Hibarri? Are you going to be...
I'm happy to have the conversation. Let's...